Commander Zixathala of the Hegemony 4th Fleet had seen conquest before. 17 systems had fallen beneath his armada's might, their primitive civilizations crumbling like sand castles before the cosmic tide. Earth would be no different, or so the intelligence report suggested. The blue-green marble hung in space like a jewel, its single moon casting pale light across continents dotted with the warm glow of cities. Zixathala's mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he observed the third planet from his flagship's bridge. The humans had barely achieved interplanetary travel, their technology centuries behind hegemony standards. This would be over by the next solar cycle. Deploy the fear protocol, Zixathala commanded his communications officer. Let them know their world belongs to us now. The message broadcast across every human frequency, translated into their primitive languages. People of Earth, you are now subjects of the galactic hegemony. Surrender immediately or face annihilation. You have 12 of your hours to comply. What happened next would forever change Zixathala's understanding of warfare. Within minutes of the broadcast, something extraordinary occurred. The humans didn't panic. They didn't surrender. Instead, every major power on Earth did something the hegemony had never witnessed. They united. Ancient enemies ceased hostilities mid-battle. Rival nations opened emergency channels. World leaders who had spent decades in bitter conflict suddenly spoke with one voice. The transformation was so rapid that Zixathala's tactical officers initially dismissed it as impossible. "Sir," his intelligence analyst reported, "we're detecting massive population movements. Civilians are evacuating cities but not in panic. This appears to be organized." Zixathala's secondary eyes narrowed. Organized evacuation suggested military preparation. But what could these primitives possibly do against fusion weaponry and quantum shields? 6 hours into the ultimatum, Earth's response arrived. Not through diplomatic channels, but through action. The attack began from Earth's moon. Hidden installations, built over decades in secret international cooperation, revealed themselves as massive railguns emerged from previously undetected underground complexes. The humans had been preparing for this day long before the hegemony had arrived. "Impossible," Zixathala breathed as kinetic projectiles tore through his outer perimeter ships. The velocity alone suggested technology that shouldn't exist on this backward world. But the moon bases were only the beginning. Earth's orbital platforms, disguised as simple communication satellites and space stations, suddenly bristled with weaponry. Laser arrays that had masqueraded as solar collectors began carving through hegemony cruisers with surgical precision. What the aliens had mistaken for primitive space junk revealed itself as a carefully orchestrated defense network. "Sir," multiple. "Launches from the surface! They're using chemical propulsion, but the warheads—" The weapons officer's voice cracked. "They're not nuclear. They're something else entirely." The something else proved to be humanity's greatest secret: antimatter warheads, produced in hidden facilities and disguised as civilian infrastructure. When they detonated against hegemony shields, the explosions rivaled small stars. Zixathala watched in growing horror as his seemingly overwhelming fleet crumbled. 3 dreadnoughts gone in the first hour, his carrier groups scattered and burning. But the humans weren't finished. From the asteroid belt came the final surprise. What long-range scans had identified as mining operations revealed their true purpose as the largest kinetic bombardment system ever conceived. Massive chunks of metal and rock, accelerated by fusion drives, began their inexorable journey toward the hegemony fleet. "They turned their entire solar system into a weapon," Zixathala whispered, watching the tactical display with something approaching awe. The humans had done more than prepare for invasion. They had prepared for war on a scale that dwarfed even hegemony thinking. Every major government had contributed resources to the defense network. Scientists from rival nations had collaborated on technologies that pushed the boundaries of physics. Military commanders who had trained to fight each other instead coordinated a response that demonstrated tactical brilliance on multiple fronts simultaneously. As his flagship shuddered under sustained fire from 6 different vectors, Zixthala realized the hegemony's fundamental error. They had assumed that a divided world meant a weak world. They had mistaken political diversity for military vulnerability. They had never encountered a species that could transform from fractured civilization to unified war machine in a matter of hours. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Earth's internet, their primitive global communication network, had been weaponized. Human hackers working in coordination with military cyber warfare specialists had penetrated hegemony, systems through vulnerabilities no one had thought to protect. Ship after ship found their navigation compromised, their weapons turning against each other, their life support systems failing. "Commander," his communications officer reported with barely contained panic, "they're demanding our surrender." Irony wasn't lost on Zixthala. The same species that had been given 12 hours to surrender was now offering him the same courtesy. 22 hours after declaring war on Earth, Zixthala broadcast his capitulation. Of his mighty fleet, barely 30 ships remained functional. The humans had lost no major installations and suffered minimal casualties. Their evacuation procedures had been as efficient as their military response. As hegemony survivors were, processed by human forces with professional courtesy and adherence to what they called Geneva Conventions, Zixthala found himself in conversation with General Sarah Chen, Earth's Supreme Defense Coordinator. "How?" he asked simply. Chen smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both kind and terrifying. "You studied our wars, Commander. You saw us fight each other and assumed we were weak. But you missed the most important lesson. We've had thousands of years to perfect the art of warfare. When we finally found an enemy we could all agree on, well," she gestured toward the tactical displays showing the remnants of his fleet. "You saw the result." Zixthala's report to the Hegemony High Command was brief. "Recommend immediate peace negotiations with Earth. Strongly advise against any future hostile action toward human space." In the margin, he added a personal note that would become legendary among hegemony military academies. "They don't just fight to win. They fight like the universe itself depends on it. And somehow, they make it true." The war had lasted one day. Earth's reputation would last forever.